Good afternoon and welcome to this 10-minute tip. Today we're talking about student response methods, and we'll take just 10 minutes to kind of go over some basics here as well as share with you some tools for how to do this in your class. So what are we talking about here? Getting students to respond is certainly nothing new. Faculty have always asked students questions. You know, you lecture for a little while, you show them how to do something, and then you ask them a question based on it. That is certainly nothing new. Everybody's always done that. The problem with that is that you only get a few students to respond at a time that way. And so you're missing out on a learning experience for all your students as well as some information with all your students. So when we talk about student response, we're talking about getting everyone in the class to answer these questions. And that does three big things for us. First of all, it keeps the students in the class actively engaged instead of passive. So they know that these questions are coming, that they're going to have to think and apply some knowledge and think about it. And so it's a little bit more of an active participation than being passive. It also assesses their level of understanding for you. So it answers the question, are they getting it? Do they understand this? Do I need to back up and explain it again? Or are they getting it so I can rush on ahead and do some other stuff? So it's a good way for you to get immediate feedback on whether students are getting it or not. It also helps the students in that it gives them prompt feedback. Yes, I'm getting it, or no, I'm not getting it. I need to ask more questions. I need to do something else to learn more. So it helps them as well. So when we talk about doing students' response, we're talking about this very planned, intentional asking of questions at certain points in your lecture. That's another big difference from the traditional thing. You ask a question just kind of off the seat of your pants as you're lecturing. When you plan students' responses, you're planning them at very specific points during the class time. You thought about it ahead of time, and you have a pedagogical reason for doing that. So that's why we're doing all this. So how do you do this? So we're going to start with some really basic ways and work up to some more complicated ways. One of the first things that you can do it's very, very simple is to throw up a multiple choice question on the screen and ask your students to simply literally write down their choice on a piece of paper and hold it up for you to see. Very simple, no apparatus involved except a pencil or a pen and a piece of paper, but a pretty easy thing to do. Again, just have them write it down and hold it up for you to see. Now, our own Roger Lunt, you may remember this story we published on our blog a while back, took this a little bit further, and he made these, he took rulers and put A, B, C, D in big letters on either side, and students would, when he would ask a question, would hold up their response so that he could see. So he's literally just looking out across the room. He's looking for answer B is the right answer. He just scans the room and he sees who answered what. And then he can kind of immediately assess, are they getting it, or is a certain student not getting it? I can address them. And again, that's immediate immediate feedback for the students as well as for him. And that's a pretty simple approach there. Now we're going to talk about using an online tool that's free and pretty easy to do called Poll Everywhere. Tyler's going to take over and demo that for you just a second.
So everyone, if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and you should see a question here. Go ahead and answer the question to the best of your knowledge, and then I'll show you the results in just a minute. Okay, looks like we got at least enough responses to show you the results. So let me go ahead and do an app share, and I'll show you the results right now. There we go. So we have 4 responses, and all of you said B, shout out the answer, which is correct. So I'll go ahead and switch it back over to you, David.
The idea here is that you can use smartphones or more medieval phones that only do texting to give feedback, and you'll see feedback like you see on the screen there. This is free to set up, and it doesn't cost you or the students anything to use, and you can do it fairly quickly off the seat of your pants. So that's called Poll Everywhere, and we'll give you a link to all these in just a minute. So the next one I want to tell you about is something called Plickers, which is fairly new. And what Plickers does is they provide for you a file that has shapes on it like you see on the screen now, and you print these out. You can have them whatever size that you want, but they probably work better on an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. You could do this on a cardstock or paper, whatever you want. And then you ask your question, and students in class hold up the piece of paper for the answer that they want. And it's a certain, if A is your answer, A, you hold the paper in a certain direction, B is another direction. They hold it up that way. And then you take your smartphone and an app that you download that's free on your smartphone, and you scan the room. And it's picking up sort of like a UPC code scanner. It's picking up all those codes, and then it will tell you, as you see here on your phone, not only how everybody answered. You see C was the most common answer here, but it's going to tell you actually who answered what. What you will do is, in the online version for Plickers, you will associate a certain card with a certain person. And so it will show you on your phone there that Eric answered C and Felicia answered D. And you get that right on your phone. Yeah, it's a very cool tool. So that's called Plickers. You can also, if you go to the website and associate this with your file on the website, you can display the results on the screen. And you have, I don't show it here, but you can show by name, and you can also show a graph that shows, similar to what like you saw on the phone just then, how the class responded in a summary way. So that's what you can do there. So another thing you can do is, of course, use the manual clickers that we have available here on campus. We have several sets of these. We have one here in the CTE. There's another one in the Arts and Sciences office that can be checked out. And these are used similar to what we were just talking about here, except they are actual physical devices that you hand out to students. And you put up a question, you build a question in PowerPoint, and you ask the question, and they click on the clicker that you see here to select their answer. And then the results show up immediately in your PowerPoint. It'll actually respond in real time and show the results in your PowerPoint. If you associate the clicker number with this particular student, you can actually know who answered what. What some schools do with these is they actually require students to buy a clicker, and so that clicker and that serial number is associated with a certain student, and they take it to every class, and they have all those numbers connected, and so you know how people are actually answering, so you can actually do things like real quizzes that way. But the easiest way to do it is just to kind of get a general idea of how the class is responding. This is used a lot in our nursing program. They do quite a bit of this. I know Dell Cunningham has used them a good bit, and some other people on campus. But this is another way of adding student response to your class in real time. So to summarize here, a few other things I want to point out is that if you decide to do this, I would suggest you start small. Don't build a huge class all around it the first time you do it. Just do a couple of questions and kind of work yourself into it. Jen is asking how much clickers are to students. If they bought them, they would be, I cannot remember right now, but the $30 is sticking in my mind, but that could be far off at this point. I haven't actually looked at it in a while. So back to the suggestions here, start small. Try a variation. It's the best use of these is when you have higher order questions, when you're asking students to apply what you've been talking about rather than just to repeat the definition of something or the right answer to something. But vary those, because it's fun sometimes to be able to answer quickly and know something, if every question is always really higher order and difficult to do, then it kind of bogs their thinking down. So vary the type of questions that you ask. And then also consider this. Consider doing this in groups. So you ask a question, but students don't answer one at a time. They answer with a partner or 3 people in a group, so that it forces them to have to think together, explain things to each other, work together to come up with a solution. So those are our 10-minute tips today about students' response systems. Rachel says that there were about $30 at another school that she worked at for students to buy. And that is the end of this presentation. We'll stay online now and answer any other questions you have. I'm going to stop the recording at this point.